I gave my daughter-in-law my house keys. The locksmith said, "Someone copied these yesterday." I was standing in my own kitchen when I realized I didn't recognize the woman living in my son's life anymore. She was leaning against the counter, phone in hand, scrolling with that distant look people get when they're not really present. I had just asked her if she needed anything from the store. She didn't look up. No, she'd flat, cold. I waited. She didn't add anything, didn't say thank you, didn't even glance my way. I let it go. I always let it go. That was 3 weeks before I handed her my house keys. I own my home out, a modest 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood with old trees and sidewalks people actually use. I raised my son, Daniel, there. His mother passed when he was 12, cancer. It was just the two of us after that. I didn't remarry. I thought about it once or twice over the years. There were women who showed interest, but I couldn't bring myself to try. My energy, my focus, my heart. I poured it all into Daniel. His education, his sports, his confidence. I wanted him to have more than I did. I wanted him to have options, opportunities, a foundation, and he did. He went to a good university on a partial academic scholarship. I covered the rest. He got a degree in business, landed a solid job, and he met Sarah during his last year of college at some networking event. They married 2 years later in a small ceremony at a hotel downtown. I liked her at first. She was polite. She smiled at the right times. She said the right things at family dinners. She thanked me for hosting. She complimented my cooking, even though I knew it was nothing special. But after the wedding, something shifted. It was subtle at first, the kind of thing you notice only in hindsight. She stopped asking me how I was. She stopped including me in their plans. If I called Daniel, she'd answer his phone and say he was busy, even when I could hear the TV in the background, even when I could hear him laughing at something. I told myself it was normal. Newlyweds need space. They need to build their own life. I didn't want to be that father, the one who clings, who can't let go, who makes his son feel guilty for growing up, so I gave them room. The years went by quietly. I saw them on holidays, birthdays, the occasional Sunday dinner, if Sarah was in the mood. I learned not to expect much. I learned to be grateful for the little I got. I started noticing patterns. When I'd suggest getting together, Sarah would say they were busy. But I'd see photos on social media, Daniel had shown me how to use it, of them at restaurants, at friends' houses, at parties and events. They had time for everyone else, just not for me. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to seem needy. I didn't want to be the kind of parent who guilts their adult child, but it hurt. I'd sit in my house on Saturday nights watching television and wonder what I'd done wrong. I'd replay conversations, looking for the moment I'd pushed too hard or said the wrong thing. I never found it. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe the issue was that there was nothing wrong. I simply wasn't a priority anymore. When Daniel told me they were trying for a baby, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real hope. I imagined being a grandfather. I imagined a child running through my house the way Daniel used to, laughing, asking questions, wanting to help me with projects in the garage. I started thinking about which room I'd turn into a play area when they visited. I bought a few toys just in case. A wooden train set I found at an antique store, some picture books, a stuffed bear. They never mentioned the baby again. I didn't ask. I kept those toys in a box in the closet. Every few months I'd see them when I was looking for something else, and I'd feel a small ache in my chest, but I didn't throw them away. I suppose I was still hoping, still believing that maybe one day I'd be part of their lives. I'm still employed, but they cut my salary by 30%. We're going to be tight for a while. I exhaled. At least it wasn't health. At least it wasn't something worse. I'm sorry, son, that's rough. Yeah, he paused. We're trying to figure things out. Sarah's really stressed. She's talking about going back to work part-time, but she doesn't want to. She's been out of her field for a few years now. What field was she in? Marketing? But she says the industry's changed too much. I didn't know what to say to that. I barely understood what marketing was. What can I do? I asked. There was a long silence. I don't know, Dad. I wanted you to know. I wanted to tell you before things got weird. Weird how? I don't know. Just, we might not be able to do as much. Dinner's out, stuff like that. I never cared about that, I said. You know that? I know. We talked a little longer, but it was clear he didn't want to ask for help directly. He had his pride. I understood that, so I didn't offer directly. I just told him I was there if he needed anything. The call ended, and I sat in my quiet house, staring at the phone in my hand. I wondered if this was my chance to be closer to him again. I told myself not to be selfish. His financial trouble wasn't about me. It wasn't an opportunity, it was a hardship. But I couldn't help feeling something shift, a door opening me. Is everything okay? Oh, everything's fine, she said. I just wanted to check in. We haven't seen you in a while. I didn't point out that I'd invited them over twice in the past month and been turned down both times. Once because they had plans with friends. Once because Sarah said she wasn't feeling well. I'd love to see you both, I said. Actually, I was thinking maybe you could come over this Saturday. I'll make lunch. Daniel's been saying he wants to spend more time with you. He misses you. Something about the way she said it felt off. Rehearsed, maybe, but I pushed the thought aside. I'd like that, I said. Great, she said brightly. Let's say noon. I'll be there. Perfect. See you then, Robert. I hung up feeling lighter than I had in months. Maybe things were changing. Maybe the financial pressure was reminding them what mattered. Maybe they were remembering that family shows up when times are. I should have known. She smiled wide when she saw the pie. Robert, you remembered. Come in, come in. The house smelled like roast chicken and herbs. Daniel was in the living room watching a football game. He stood when he saw me and pulled me into a hug. It felt genuine, warm. For a moment I let myself believe everything was fine. We ate at the dining table. Sarah had said it nicely, cloth napkins, the good dishes. She asked about my week. I told them about a small consulting project I'd picked up, helping a friend with some drainage issues on his property. Daniel seemed interested. He asked questions. Sarah nodded along, smiling. I told them about Mrs. Patterson next door, how she'd fallen on her porch steps, and I'd helped her get to the doctor, how I'd been checking on her every day since. That's so kind of you, Sarah said. You've always been so good at taking care of people. I felt a small warmth at that. Maybe I'd been wrong about her. Maybe she did see me, appreciate me. Then, over coffee, Sarah leaned forward and folded her hands on the table. Her expression shifted, more serious, more focused. Robert, she said, there's something we wanted to talk to you about. I looked at Daniel. He was staring at his coffee cup, his jaw tight. We've been thinking, and with everything going on, Daniel's pay cut, the cost of living going up every month, we're trying to be smart about our expenses. We're trying to make changes that will help us get back on solid ground. We were wondering, carefully, if you'd be open to us staying at your place. Just temporarily. Just until we get back on our feet financially. I blinked. The words took a moment to land. Stay at my place? Just a thought, she said. Your house is so big, and you're there all alone. We'd only need one bedroom. We'd stay out of your way. We could even help out. Cooking, cleaning, maintenance. It would actually be good for you to have people around. Daniel finally looked up, his eyes. We wouldn't ask if we weren't really struggling, Dad. We've looked at our budget every way possible. Our rent alone is killing us. I didn't know what to say. My house wasn't big. It was a normal 3-bedroom house. 1 bedroom was mine. 1 was my office. 1 was a guest room I barely used. And I wasn't alone in the way she was implying. I had a life. I had routines. I had a space I'd built for myself over decades. But I looked at my son, and I saw exhaustion in his eyes. I saw the weight he was carrying, the fear. How long are we talking? A few months, Sarah said. 6 at the most. Just until we save up enough for a security deposit on a cheaper place and rebuild our emergency. 6 months. Half a year of sharing my space. Half a year of adjusting my entire life around them. I hesitated. Let me think about it. Sarah's smile tightened just for a second. But I saw it. Of course, she said. Take your time. We're not trying to pressure you. We just thought, since you're family, and since you have the space. She trailed off, letting the implication hang. Daniel reached across the table and put his hand on mine. Thanks for considering it, Dad. I nodded and changed the subject. I liked my quiet mornings with coffee and the newspaper spread on the kitchen table. I liked being able to sit in my living room in my undershirt and old shorts without worrying about anyone seeing me. I liked my routines, my rhythms, my space. But Daniel was my son, my only child, the only family I had left. And if he was struggling, if he needed help, how could I say no? I thought about all the times over the years I'd wished we were closer. All the holidays felt too short, too formal, too much. All the phone calls, all the invitations I'd extended, declined. Maybe this was an opportunity. Maybe having them there would rebuild something between us. Maybe I'd finally feel like I had family again, not just a son I saw a few times a year. I wanted to believe that. I called him the next day. "All right," I said. "You can stay." There was a pause. Then relief flooded his voice. "Really? Dad, thank you. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We'll make it work. Just keep the place clean, I said, and respect my space. I still need to live my life." Of course, we won't be in your way at all." "And 6 months, Daniel, that's it?" 6 months, absolutely. They moved in 2 weeks later. Better than fine, actually. They kept to themselves, mostly. Sarah cooked a few times a week, and I had to admit it was nice to come home to a warm meal I hadn't prepared myself. Daniel helped with repairs I'd been putting off for months, fixing a loose railing on the front steps, patching some drywall in the hallway where I'd accidentally put a hole with a ladder, replacing a broken outlet in the garage. We'd have dinner together a few nights a week. We'd watch TV in the evenings. Daniel would ask about my day. I'd ask about his job. Sarah would tell stories about people I didn't know, but I'd listen anyway because it felt good to have voices in the house again. It felt almost normal, like family. I started to think it might actually work, that maybe I'd been wrong to worry. But by the second month, small things started to shift. Sarah began rearranging furniture. She didn't ask, she just did it. She said it was to open up the space and improve the flow. I came home one afternoon from getting groceries and found my reading chair, the brown leather recliner I'd had for 20 years, moved from its spot by the front window to a corner near the bookshelf. That chair had been by that window for as long as I could remember. I'd sit there in the afternoons with the sun coming through, reading the paper or a book, watching the neighborhood go by. It was my spot. I didn't say anything. I just moved it back the next morning. When I came home that evening, it was in the corner again. I stood there looking at it, feeling something tighten in my chest. It seemed petty to argue about a chair, childish, so I left it. But it bothered me more than it should have. That chair had history. I'd sat there when Daniel was in high school, helping him with geometry homework. I'd sat there after Martha died, staring out at the street, trying to figure out how to keep going when everything felt broken. Now it was shoved in a dark corner where the light didn't reach, to be fine with it. I'd come home from running errands and find 3 or 4 people in my living room, sitting on my furniture, drinking wine, laughing. They'd glance up when I walked in, smile politely, maybe say hello. Then they'd go right back to their conversation. I'd set down my bags, mumble something about giving them space, and retreat to my bedroom. It happened twice in 1 week, then 3 times the next week. I wasn't against them having guests. It was just that nobody asked me, nobody checked if it was okay. My house had become their social. One evening, I came out of my bedroom to get a glass of water. Sarah and 2 women I'd never met were sitting in the living room. I heard my name as I approached. "Robert's been really great about letting us stay," Sarah was saying. "That's so generous," one of the women. "It is," Sarah agreed. "Though, honestly, the house is pretty outdated. I've been trying to get him to modernize a bit, but he's pretty set in his ways." They laughed. Light, casual laughter. I stood in the hallway holding my empty glass. "How long are you staying?" the other woman asked. "We're not sure yet," Sarah said. "Ideally, we'll find our own place soon, but the market is brutal right now, and honestly, it's nice having space while we figure things out. His house is bigger than our apartment was. And free rent." "Exactly," Sarah said. "It's giving us a chance to actually save money for once." I walked back to my bedroom without getting the water. I liked them, but when I mentioned it, Sarah looked confused. "Oh, I thought those were really old, she said. I was just trying to freshen things up. Don't you like these better? I didn't. But I couldn't explain why without sounding sentimental or difficult. They're fine, I said. New dishes appeared in the kitchen, white modern ones instead of my old mismatched set. My coffee mugs, the ones I'd collected over the years from different places, were moved to the back of a high cabinet, out of reach. Sarah had taken over the second bathroom completely. Her makeup, her hair products, her lotions and creams covered every surface. I'd bought that house with 2 bathrooms specifically so guests would have their own. Now I was the guest, using the small half-bath near the laundry room with its pedestal sink and cramped shower. I didn't complain. I didn't want to seem petty. I didn't want to be the difficult father-in-law who couldn't adjust. But I was starting to feel like a stranger in my own house. It was meditative, peaceful. Now Sarah was in the kitchen by 6, making elaborate smoothies with a high-speed blender that screamed like a jet engine. Her things were spread across every counter: protein powder, supplements, fresh fruit, greens I didn't recognize. The first few times I tried to work around her, I'd wait until she finished, but she'd linger, scrolling her phone, the blender still out, her mess still everywhere. Eventually, I started making toast and coffee in my bedroom, using a small machine I'd bought years ago for camping. I ate breakfast alone, sitting on my bed feeling like an intruder. I looked up from the workbench where I was sorting screws. Potential for what? For upgrades. Her eyes were bright, excited. New paint, modern fixtures, updated appliances. The kitchen especially could use work, and the bathrooms. If you invested just a little, it could really increase the property value. I set down the jar I was holding. I'm not selling. I'm not saying you should sell, she said, quickly, smoothly. I'm just saying it would be nice, for everyone. And honestly, if Daniel and I are going to be here for a while longer, it would be good to make the space more livable. As if my home wasn't good enough. As if everything I'd built here over 30 years was inadequate. I like my house the way it is, I said. She smiled, but it was tight, forced. Of course. I'm just saying, if you ever wanted to make some changes, we could help. Daniel's good at that stuff. We could even pitch in financially if it meant improving our living situation. Our living situation? In my house. I'll keep it in mind, I said. She nodded and left. And I stood there in the garage, feeling like I'd just been told my home wasn't good enough for them. Mail I'd left on the counter would disappear. I'd find it later, filed in drawers I never used, mixed in with Sarah's organizational system. Bills I needed to pay would be tucked away before I'd seen them. I'd search for 20 minutes, feeling a rising panic, before finding them in strange places. One day, I couldn't find my checkbook. I tore apart my office looking for it. I finally found it in a kitchen drawer stuffed between takeout menus and notepad. When I asked Sarah about it, she shrugged. I was just tidying up. I thought you'd appreciate having things organized. I'd appreciate you leaving my things alone. She looked at me like I'd slapped her. Her eyes went wide, wounded. I was trying to help. Daniel came into the kitchen then. He must have heard my tone. Dad, she's just trying to keep things. It's not her house to tidy, I said. It's not her house to mess up either, Dan. His voice had an edge. We're all living here. We all need to respect the space. I looked at my son and realized something had shifted in his. This wasn't my house. It was our house now. Shared space, communal. I didn't argue. I just walked away. A few weeks later, Daniel sat me down in the living room. Sarah was there too, sitting beside him on the couch I'd bought 15 years ago. Dad, he said, we need to talk about the timeline. I felt my stomach drop. Okay. We've been looking at apartments, but everything is so expensive. Way more than we expected. And with my reduced salary, we're just not in a position yet. How much more time do you need? He glanced at Sarah. She nodded slightly. Maybe another 6 months. Maybe longer. We're not sure yet, but we're trying. We're saving everything we can. Another 6, possibly more. That meant they'd been there 4 months already. That meant maybe 10. All right, I said. Thanks, Dad. He stood and clapped me on the. And we really appreciate it. I know it's not easy having. I wanted to say more. I wanted to tell him it was harder than he knew. like I was disappearing own home, but he looked so relieved, so grateful, so I just nodded. She sometimes watered my plants when I traveled, and with her recent fall, I wanted to make sure she had access in case of emergency. I went to the locksmith in town, a small shop I'd used for years, family-owned, the kind of place that still exists in older neighborhoods. The owner, Greg, was behind the counter. He was maybe 55, with gray hair and reading glasses that hung on a chain around his neck. We'd chatted dozens of times. I handed him my key ring. Need 2 copies of the... He took the keys and examined them, squinting slightly. Then he frowned. This one? Yeah, that's the one. He turned it over in his fingers, studying the cut. Then he looked up at me. Funny thing, he said. Someone just had this exact key copied yesterday. My mind went blank. What? Yeah. Same key, same cut pattern, same brand. I remember it specifically because it's an older model, Schlager Classic, probably 20 years old. We don't see many of these, and I had to dig out the blank from my back inventory. My throat went dry. My hands felt cold. Who? He shrugged. Young woman, dark hair, maybe early 30s, attractive. She didn't give a name. Paid cash. Sarah. I stood there trying to process it, trying to find an innocent explanation. You're sure? I asked. You're absolutely sure it was this key? Positive, Greg said. I've been doing this 30 years. I remember patterns. That's the same key. No question. I thanked him, took my copies, and walked out into the bright afternoon. Everything looked the same street, same storefronts, same trees overhead. But something fundamental had shifted. She'd copied my keys, without asking, without telling me. Why? But if it was innocent, why wouldn't she mention it? Why pay cash? Why not just ask me? I sat there for a long time, my hands clasped between my knees, staring at the floor. She jumped slightly when, "Oh, Robert, I didn't hear you come in." "What were you doing in my office?" "I was looking for tape." "I thought you might have some in your desk." "It's in the kitchen drawer." "Oh, I didn't know. Sorry." She walked past me. I went into my office and looked around. Everything seemed normal at first, but then I checked my desk. I'm particular about organization, not obsessive, but consistent. I keep bills on the left side of my desk, personal documents in the center, miscellaneous papers on the right. Someone had gone through them. They'd been moved. Not obviously, but enough that I could tell. I opened the drawers. Nothing was missing, but things were slightly out of place. A stack of bank statements I'd filed was now in the wrong order. A folder I kept closed was open. Someone had been searching. I started locking my office. She didn't know I was there. My stomach turned. "Paul," I said when he answered, "I need some legal advice." "Robert, good to hear from you. What's going on?" "My son and his wife have been staying with me. It was supposed to be temporary, but it's been months now, and I just found out she had my house keys copied without my knowledge." "Copied without permission?" he asked. "I found out from the locksmith. She had them copied the day before I went in." "Do you have a formal rental agreement with them?" "No. They're just staying as guests, temporarily." "How long have they been there?" "About 4 months. Then legally, in most states, they're considered tenants even without a formal agreement. They've established residency." My chest tightened. "What does that mean?" "It means you can't just ask them to leave immediately. You'd need to follow proper eviction procedures. Give written notice, usually 30 to 60 days depending on your state. And if they contest it, it could take longer." "Can they claim any ownership of my house?" "Not unless you've given them reason to believe they have an ownership interest." "Have you added them to any documents? Made any promises in writing?" "Good. But Robert, the fact that she copied keys without asking is concerning. It suggests she's trying to establish more control or access than she should have." I was quiet. "Have you checked your mail recently, Paul? Your financial documents?" "Why?" "Because if someone's trying to establish themselves in your property beyond their welcome, they might also be trying to access your assets, your credit, your accounts." A cold feeling spread through my chest. "Check everything," Paul said. "Pull your credit report. Make sure no unauthorized inquiries have been made. Check your bank statements. And Robert, I'd recommend you start documenting everything. Keep a log of conversations, requests, any boundary violations. You think it's that serious? I think you should protect yourself just in case. What else should I do? Change your locks. Don't tell them. Just do it and give them one new key each. See how they react. And consider this. If you want real protection, you should think about putting your house in a trust. A trust? It removes the property from your personal ownership technically. You create a trust, transfer the property to it, and you maintain control as trustee. It protects the asset from claims, from legal complications. If they're trying to establish any claim to your property, a trust makes that impossible? How fast can something like that be done? I can have paperwork drafted in a couple days. You'd need to come in to sign, have it notarized. But we can move quickly if you want. I thought about Sarah's hand on my office door handle. Start the paperwork, I said. I'll call you tomorrow, Paul. And Robert, trust your instincts. They're usually right. I called a different locksmith, one in the next town over. I didn't want Greg involved in case word got around. When Daniel and Sarah came home from work, I handed them each a single new key. Had to change the locks, I said casually. Lost my full set the other day. Security precaution? Daniel just nodded and pocketed his key. Sarah took hers slowly, studying it. Just one key? One per person, I said. I've got the spares. Her eyes narrowed just slightly, just for a second, but I saw it. That night I heard them talking in their bedroom. Their voices were muffled. Sarah's tone was sharp. I couldn't make out words, but I didn't need to. She knew something had changed. I pulled my credit report, something I hadn't done in probably 6 months. There was an inquiry I didn't recognize. A hard pull. Dated 3 weeks ago, my hands went cold. I called my bank immediately. Mr. Calloway, the representative said after pulling up my file, it looks like someone attempted to open a line of credit using your name, address, and social security number. My heart was pounding. Who? I'm sorry, we can't disclose that information, but the application was flagged by our fraud detection system and denied due to incomplete information, and because it was submitted from an IP address that didn't match your usual patterns. When exactly was this? Let me check. 3 weeks ago. The application came through online. 3 weeks ago, I'd been out of the house most of the day, helping my friend Thomas with a deck repair. I'd left early in the morning and didn't get back until evening. Daniel and Sarah had been home. Was anything else accessed? I asked. Not that I can see. This was the only attempt. But I'd recommend you place a fraud alert on your credit immediately. I did. Then I hung up and sat at my desk, staring at the credit report. Someone had tried to open a line of credit in my name. Someone in my house had access to my information. Someone was planning something, even if she's trying to steal from you. I just want to protect what's mine. Paul sighed. All right, I'll prioritize the trust paperwork. Can you come to my office Friday? I'll be there. In the meantime, secure everything. Change all your passwords. Set up two-factor authentication on every account. Move important documents somewhere they can't access. I will. And Robert, start thinking about an exit strategy. About how you're going to get them out. I know. But legally, the house was no longer in my name as an individual. This protects you, Paul said. If anything happens to you, this goes according to the trust terms you've set. It can't be contested in probate. It can't be claimed by anyone not named in the trust. Daniel's in it. After I'm gone. I know. But only after you're gone. Right now, this is yours, and yours alone. I nodded. You're protected, he said. Legally, that house is untouchable by anyone but you. I shook his hand. Thank you, Paul. Be careful, Robert. People do strange things when money's involved. I moved important documents there. My birth certificate, my passport, insurance policies, my will, stock certificates. Everything that mattered was now locked away where no one could access it without me. I wasn't taking any more chances. She came in wearing her robe, poured herself a cup from the pot and leaned against the counter, the same position as that day months ago when I realized I didn't know her anymore. Robert, she said casually, Daniel and I have been talking. I looked up from my about what? Well, she said slowly, carefully, we've been here for a while now, 5 months. We've been contributing to the household, cooking, cleaning, helping with repairs and maintenance. We really feel like we're part of things here. I said nothing. We were thinking, she continued, watching maybe it would make sense to formalize our arrangement. Formalize how? We thought maybe we could be added to the deed as co-owners, just as a safeguard, in case something ever happened to you. It would make things simpler for everyone. Daniel's your son, after all. It makes sense that he'd eventually inherit anyway. I felt my blood go. I set down my coffee very slowly. No, this is my house, my name, my property, your guests. Her expression hard. The warmth drained completely from her. We're family, Robert. That doesn't mean you own my house. We're not trying to own it. We're trying to protect it, to protect Daniel's future, to protect our investment of time and energy here. You haven't invested any. You've lived here. Jaw tightened. That's not fair. We've done a lot for you. Name one thing. She stared at me. For a moment, I thought she might actually, but she didn't. You're being selfish. It's my house. It should be ours. There it was, the truth she'd been holding back. Get out of my kitchen, I said. She stood there for another moment, her eyes blazing. Then she grabbed her coffee cup and walked out. He said no? Daniel's voice. He said no. Sarah's voice was sharp, angry. He completely shut it down. What did you expect? You asked him to put you on his deed. To put us on his deed. You're his son. It's still his house, Sarah. He's 70 years old. He's 67. Whatever. He's old. He lives alone. What's he going to do with this house? Let it sit empty when he dies. We deserve to have security. We don't deserve his house. Don't we? After everything we've done, after all the time we've spent here, putting up with his routines and his rules and his ancient furniture, we've been here for months, Daniel. We've contributed. We've lived here for free. Exactly. We should get something for that. We should have some claim. I stood outside their door, my hands clenched at listening to my son's wife say she deserved my property. I'm not having this conversation. This was tired. Fine, but don't expect me to keep playing nice with him. I walked back to my room, something I'd regret. What did you tell her? I said no. Good. Don't engage with that topic again. Don't explain, don't justify, don't discuss. It's a closed subject. I think I need to ask them to leave. Then do it properly. Give them written notice. 60 days is standard in your state. Type it up, date it, sign it, hand it to them. Keep a copy for yourself. And if they refuse, then you file for eviction. But I don't think it'll come to that. Most people leave when they realize you're serious. Robert, one more thing. Document everything from this point forward. Every conversation, every request, every interaction. If this goes bad, you'll want a record. I will. It stated clearly that I needed my space back. It gave them 60 days to find alternative housing. I printed it, signed it, and put it in an envelope. On a Tuesday evening, I handed it to Daniel. Sarah was out with friends. He opened it there in the living room and read it slowly. His face went pale, then red. "Dad," he said. His voice cracked slightly. "We don't have anywhere to go. You've had 5 months to figure that out." "Wait, we've been trying. Everything is so expensive." "Then try harder. We've been saving every penny." "Then use those savings to get a place." He stared at me like I was a stranger, like I'd transformed into someone he didn't recognize. "I can't believe you're doing this," he said. "I can't believe you let her ask me." He flinched. "Did you know?" I asked. "Did you know she was going to ask me that?" He didn't answer immediately. That told me everything. She mentioned it. I told her it was a bad idea. But you didn't stop her. "I can't control her, Dad." "No, but you can stand up for what's right, and you didn't." He looked down at the letter in his hands. "You have 60 days. That's generous. That's more than..." He nodded slowly and walked to his bedroom without another word. I heard Daniel's voice, low and urgent. Then Sarah's voice, rising. The bedroom door flew open. She marched down the hallway to where I was sitting in the living room, reading. She was holding the letter. "Are you serious?" she demanded. I set down my book. "I'm serious. After everything we've done for you, you've done nothing. We've lived here for months. We've cooked, we've cleaned, You've lived here rent-free, I interrupted. You've rearranged my house without asking. You've taken over my spaces. You've gone through my private office. You copied my keys without permission. You tried to access my credit. And then you had the audacity to ask me to put you on my deed. Face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. She looked at Daniel, who was standing in the hallway. Say something. He didn't. She turned back to me. Her eyes were bright with rage. You're going to regret this. I already do, I said calmly. I regret letting you into my home. She threw the letter on the coffee table and stormed back to the bedroom. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. They'd come out for food when I wasn't around. They avoided me in the hallways. I didn't care. I felt lighter than I had in months. Freer. The countdown was on. Every day that passed was one day closer to having my home back. Furniture they'd brought, clothes, boxes and boxes of items I'd never seen before. It took them. When they were finished, Daniel came to the door. His face was tired. Older, somehow. We're leaving, he hesitated. Dad, Goodbye, Daniel. He looked at me for a long moment. I saw something in his eyes. Regret, maybe. Shame. But he didn't say anything else. He just turned and walked to the truck where Sarah was waiting. They drove away. I stood in my doorway. An hour later, my phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. We're gone. Thanks for nothing. I stared at it for a moment. Then I deleted it. I moved my chair back to the window. I put my coffee mugs back in the front of the cabinet. I took down Sarah's curtains and rehung my old blue ones. I started cooking meals I wanted to eat, on my own schedule, at my own pace. I reclaimed my office, my bathroom, my kitchen. I reclaimed my life. She alleged that you had made an oral agreement to transfer the property to Daniel, and that she and Daniel had relied on that promise to their detriment. That's a complete lie. I know. The judge knew too. She had no documentation, no witnesses, no evidence of any kind, just her word. The case was dismissed within a week. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Is it over? It's over. She can't come back at this. The trust is ironclad. Thank you, Paul. You did the right thing, Robert. It took courage. I should have seen it sooner, what she was doing, what she wanted. I should have protected you. You're my son. You were trying to protect your wife. I let her hurt you. Yes, I said. You did? He was silent for a moment. I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm working on it. Can I see you sometime? Maybe, eventually, but not yet. I understand. We talked a little longer. He told me he'd gotten a new job with better pay. He was renting a small apartment. He was going to therapy. I told him I was glad he was taking care of himself. When we hung up, I sat in my chair by the window and watched the sunset. I've replaced some of the old carpet with hardwood. I've started working on projects I'd put off for years, building a workbench in the garage, planting a vegetable garden in the backyard. Mrs. Patterson comes over sometimes. We have coffee on the porch. She tells me about her grandchildren. I tell her about the tomatoes I'm growing. It's a simple life, a quiet life, a good life. Sometimes in the evenings, I sit in my chair by the window, the one that's back where it belongs, and watch the neighborhood wind down for the day. I think about the locksmith's words. Someone copied these yesterday. Such a small thing, such a tiny detail. But it changed everything. It woke me up. I'm grateful I paid attention. I'm grateful I acted. I'm grateful I protected what was mine, not out of bitterness, not out of revenge, because I deserved peace, and now I have a place that's whole. For telling me something I needed to know. Sometimes the smallest acts of honesty change everything. And I did it without raising my voice, without cruelty, without drama, just with clarity, just with boundaries, just with the quiet certainty that I deserved respect in my own home. Por favor, verifique as respostas. Sonete. 4.5.